welcome. Thank you for coming to the Bronx Book Festival. We are going to get started with the next panel. It is a middle grade panel called Monsters, Myth, and Magic, and it will be moderated by Katie Zhao. So I will turn it over to them to get started.
On? Oh, okay, cool. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming out today. I'm Katie Zhao. I'm the author of this newly released book, Winnie Zhang Unleashes a Legend. I've also written Last Gamer Standing, which came out from Scholastic last year, and I'm the author of The Dragon Warrior and the sequel, The Fallen Hero. But today I'm here to talk about Winnie Zhang, which follows the adventures of Winnie Zhang, who's about to start 6th grade, and all she wants to do is just get through class, get through middle school, but unfortunately her plans sort of go awry when she uncovers her deceased grandmother's old cookbook, and in creating mooncakes from a recipe, she accidentally unleashes her dormant shaman powers as well as spirits into the world. So instead of just being able to get by in class, she now also has to save the world. And I will turn it over to my fellow authors to introduce themselves.
So hi, everyone. Oh, you can hear me. I'm Sayantani DasGupta. I'm the author of, hold on, I was seeing if I had them all, of the Kiran Mala and the Kingdom Beyond trilogy, which are these books. And more recently, Debating Darcy, which is my YA debut, which is a Pride and Prejudice reimagining. I think that's back there for sale. But, and I'm dropping things. Today I'm here to talk about Force of Fire, which is a middle grade fantasy adventure set in the Kingdom Beyond universe, but it has as its protagonist Pinky, who is a fire rakushi, a kind of Bengali folk monster. And all Pinky really wants to do is to not set her classrooms at the Academy of Murder and Mayhem on fire accidentally, causing much embarrassment. All she wants to do is get control of her fire. She's a little all about herself. She doesn't care that the serpent overlords are ruling her country, whatever, freedom, whatever, from anti-colonialism, whatever. But she finds herself becoming the reluctant hero, the reluctant leader of a revolution against the Serpent Empire after she meets a cute but rather sinister Prince of Snakes who promises to help her control her fire. And she realizes that, some trade-offs just aren't worth it. So that is Force of Fire, which I'm here to talk about today. And the phone case I dropped is the cover for Crown of Flames, which is the next book, next Pinky book coming out in the fall. And the only copy I have on it is on my phone. So I can hold it up and show it off.
Hi, everybody. I'm Claribel A. Ortega. I'm the author of Ghost Squad and Witchlings, which just came out. Oh, thank you. Which just came out in April. Witchlings is about 12-year-old Seven Salazar, who wants nothing more than to be sorted into the most powerful coven, House Hyacinth, along with her best friend Poppy. But unfortunately, I had to make it an interesting story, and she is sorted into the spare coven of unwanted witches. And when her coven circle doesn't close and she's about to lose her magic, she invokes the impossible task and needs to defeat a wolf-like monster called the Night Beast, or her and her two coven mates, who happen to be her bully and a new girl in town, will be turned into toads. So I'm really excited. The book sort of answers the question, what happens if the sorting hat puts you nowhere? And it's a story in the vein of Nevermore and Harry Potter, but with queer characters and a diverse cast. So,
Hey. So the way I'm going to sort of structure this is I'm going to ask my fellow authors some specific questions about their book, and then we're going to go into general questions, and then open it up to audience Q&A. So my first question is for Sayantani. I'm very curious. So I've never written like a spin-off novel or series, but I was wondering, what was the process like writing Force of Fire, which is a spin-off of Kiranmala and the Kingdom Beyond? Was the writing more or less difficult, or was it just like different?
Well, for those of you who are authors up here and out here, you know how sometimes you have some really insistent characters who like are bossy and are opinionated and are in your head, and even though they're a secondary character, they're like, I'm not a secondary character, I need my whole series, you know. That was this. So in the Kiranmala series, Pinky is an adult. And she's a secondary character. You know, she's a quirky, powerful, says what she, you know, says whatever comes into her head, does terrible and fabulous things sort of character. But she really demanded that I give her a whole origin story and kind of wouldn't let me go until I did. So it was deliriously fun because her voice is so snarky and sassy, even beyond Kiranmala's like New Jersey sass. This is magical, otherworldly sass. So it was delightful, I will say, to write this character. And it, like, the serious part of the book is that it was also an homage to my grandparents, who were both involved in the Indian Revolution against the British. So the serpents are a very thinly disguised metaphor for the British who colonized South Asia for 200 years. And my grandfather was 15 when he went to jail for fighting, you know, in the Chittagong Armory raid against the British. And I thought, what does that mean to be a teenager who cares about something called freedom so much that you will actually go to jail defending your country? You will give up so much defending this idea called freedom. And I couldn't figure it out. And so I started my revolutionary story with a very reluctant revolutionary heroine. So that's how it started.
Aww. Well, I'm really glad Pinky demanded to be written, because, like, for those who haven't read the book yet, or if you have, like, Pinky really is just like such a funny heroine. Like, I was like laughing throughout the book, and even like the chapter titles, I could tell like her voice was coming out so strongly through them.
So here, I'll read you a favorite chapter title. Yes, Pinky is full of sass and snark. You know, here we go. The jig is seriously up, and I have to save everyone's butt with a new, possibly not very well thought out plan. Or, are all cute boys extra complicated, or just the royal ones? So yes, she has a lot of attitude.
That's great. We love middle grade characters with attitude. All right, my next question is for Claribel. So a central theme of Witchlings is friendship, specifically the changing nature of it. Did you always know how you were going to write the friendship between Seven and Poppy and Seven and Valley? Did the friendships between these characters change at all as you were drafting, or did you all have it planned out from the start?
So I sort of had it planned out. I started with Seven, who's the main character, and I knew I wanted her to like be overachieving, and then I wanted her to sort of experience a friendship breakup, because I don't know about you guys, but my middle school experience was filled with drama. And I just wanted to sort of express that in the book. So that's where the idea of Poppy and her relationship sort of like came from. And then for Valley and Thorn, who are the other two witchlings in her coven, I wanted to give them sort of like characteristics that would force Seven to reevaluate her views on like everything, because I feel like for me, I was a very overachieving like straight A student when I was that age, and I thought I knew it all, and I wanted to challenge those kind of misconceptions that you get about people sometimes. So I paired her up with her bully, which nightmare, and with the new girl in town who was like way too over enthusiastic about everything. And I always knew that how their friendship would develop throughout the story, but like the way that it happened sort of happened as I was writing, and it was even cuter than like I could have imagined. Their personalities, all three of them, are really strong, and they just like came out as I was writing. So I had it planned, but the characters like gave me an assist and made it even nicer.
Oh, yeah, like the friendships are really cute. I kept going like, aw, every few pages. Yeah, and I feel like you really captured like middle grade, like middle school friendship dynamics. Yeah, like the way that people become closer to certain people they didn't expect to, and the way that like people just like drift apart. I felt like a lot of kids who pick up this book are really gonna relate to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's really painful to lose a friend at any age. And I think at that age, it's especially hard because you don't really understand that, like, friendships end sometimes. You think it's going to be forever. That's why, like, moving is, like, the worst thing that can ever happen to you. When you're, like, 12, you're like, no, my friends. So I just wanted to, like, show that in the book, and I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, it was great. Going back to Sayantani, can you describe the world building behind the Magical Academy in Force of Fire?
So I too have a magical academy, the Ghotutkach Academy of Murder and Mayhem. And Ghotutkach is actually a not from folktales, but kind of from an epic called the Mahabharata. And Ghotutkach is the son of this great hero and a Rakushi. But he's kind of overlooked. Like in the original epic, like I kind of have a problem with the fact that these monstrous characters, these Rakush, they're a little bit like blown off. Like the heroes will use them when it's convenient in battle, like to win this great battle. But then they'll be written off as like morally ambiguous, not heroic characters and not given like the equal rights that a son of a prince would be given otherwise. So I thought, okay, I'm kind of not into, the kind of prejudiced way that traditional epic tales represent these characters. I'm going to name my academy after this guy. And so Pinky is a fire Rakushi, the other kind of kinds of Rakush that you can become, and it's not a sorting hat thing, it's like you just innately kind of become this, are you can be a land Rakush, you can kind of control earthquakes and the land otherwise. You can be an air Rakush with wings and fly around, a water Rakush, so these are all elemental kind of forces, or a fire Rakushi. And the key is, of course, being able to harness your power and be useful as opposed to just like randomly setting the disemboweling labs on fire, as Pinky tends to do, or like becoming embarrassed by something that your classmates said and then like creating havoc because you don't know how to control your power. So in a sense, they're all these elemental Rakush, but they're adolescents, right? So they're like creating earthquakes when like that cute boy or girl or monster smiles at them. And so it was really fun to both think about where their powers would come from and then what an academy full of adolescent monsters would look like.
Yeah. It's a very like chaotic, but it seems like very fun school.
That's what I was going to say. So chaotic.
Yeah, I don't know if I would do well personally at that school. Like, I think I'd be hanging out in the back, like, kind of scared of my classmates.
I wouldn't. I'm a Pisces. I get over emotional about everything.
Well, I mean, I'm a Scorpio, so I'm wondering if whether or not like some of Pinky's uncontrolled rage fires might be a little bit modeled off of myself. I'm not saying I'm hot-tempered.
All right.
But it might be.
Moving on, I have another question for Claribel. So I was really fascinated by the concepts of spares and forever witchlings, especially because I remember your dedication. I don't remember it specifically, but it was to, I think, kids who like feel like they don't belong, right? So I was wondering, like, how did you come up with this concept?
Sure. So I am from the diaspora, which means I never feel like I belong anywhere. Like my parents were born in Dominican Republic, and I was born and raised in the Bronx. So when I was a kid, it was always like, oh, you're not actually Dominican, you're a gringa, like a white girl, right? And like then my classmates would be like, you're not actually American. So I was like, so then where do I belong? And that concept of like not belonging anywhere, I feel like is so universal to so many different people, and I just really wanted to sort of like translate that idea of the diaspora of not feeling like you had a home into the idea of sortings and like houses and covens. And I was like, how interesting what would happen if like you didn't belong in any of the places, like where would you go, and you just sort of get lumped in with the other people who don't belong and you have to find your way together. So I just found that really fascinating, and I thought it was interesting how, like, even if you're not from the diaspora, like, you can still feel like that in middle school especially. And so it just gave me a lot of, like, a vehicle for, like, this, like, richness to write about, like, not belonging, not having a home, and what happens, like, when it's like a found family essentially, which is like most of my books, I feel like.
Yeah, I think what's so special about Witchlings is that because it's so layered and complex, like kids from all backgrounds can relate to the story. Like you don't have to be a kid from the diaspora to feel like you don't belong. Like I feel like a lot of kids like Seven goes into the book thinking she's gonna be sorted into one house. And like basically like putting like all of her plans into that and like being with Poppy at that house. And then like when that falls through, she's like, oh crap, now like I have to live a whole different life I didn't expect. And that happens to everybody, like at any age.
Yeah, I mean, how many of us had our lives upended during the pandemic when it started? Like I know so many people who are like, this is the year I'm gonna get everything together at the beginning of 2020. And it's like, I feel like we collectively cursed ourselves by saying that. But like plans change, life changes, things get thrown at you that you don't expect, and you have to adjust. And doing that at a young age is so hard, especially when you have like a wolf monster hunting you. So
Particularly so.
All right. So my next question for Sayantani again. In this book, singing is magical. Furthermore, I noticed that there's a running theme of culture that's passed on through language, poetry, and music. This was so fascinating to me. How did you come up with this concept, and how did you like sort of intertwine it with magic?
Ooh, thank you for asking that great question. So, language is so powerful that at the beginning of any kind of fascist movement, I'll just say that in general, poets get arrested, right? Journalists get arrested. Words are that powerful that if you want to destroy a culture, you come for its language. And in Bangladesh, that happened where during the Pasha Andolan, the fight of language, students and professors went to the streets and they became language martyrs because they were trying to defend the use of their language and not Urdu. Pakistan, at that point Bangladesh, was an annex of Pakistan. And I wanted to honor not just that struggle for language in Bangladesh, but kind of all over by looking at language. And so in one of the early scenes in the book, there's a prince who is disguised as a poor village school teacher, of course, as one does, and he's teaching these young human children, and they're asking him, why don't the snakes want us to speak Bangla, Shurjuda? One of the human school children was asking. The teacher they called Brother Shurja smiled, poured some soil into the boy's hand, and then closed the child's small fist with his own. I know this might be hard to understand, but the thing is, destroying a people's language, not letting children learn the ways of those who came before them, is the surest way to kill a culture. And, I think that that's true in so many different contexts, so many different cultures, so many different countries. And then he ends up teaching these young children a song. This is a song by the Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore, and the song was apparently Mahatma Gandhi's favorite song during the Indian Revolution. And I'll just sing a line and then translate it for you. So the teacher sings with the children, Jodi tor dak shune keu na ashe tobe ekla cholo re. And what that means loosely is, if there is no light, if the path before you rages with dark, then light your own heart on fire, be the beacon, be the spark. And it's this idea that freedom, anti-colonialism, it's so important. The struggle is so important, whatever it is that we're struggling against, that even if no one else comes with you, light your own heart on fire. Be the music that other people then march to, in a sense. And so I wanted that intertwining of kind of the importance of language and hanging on to language, and the way that language and music are together, it's both the words and the muse and the tune that energize us, right? That make us realize that there are things worth fighting for that are more important than just ourselves. So that's kind of how it got played in.
I love that. And I really wanted to ask you this question because that line that you read, when I read that, I like kind of teared up. I felt like I really could have used a book like Force of Fire when I was younger because I remember being, a kid who just like, I felt like I was so different from everyone else, but I didn't want to be different. So I like pushed away my language and culture. I grew up going to Chinese school and I did not want to go to Chinese school. I just wanted to be like a regular American. But now that I'm older, I have so much more perspective and I'm like so grateful to like be connected to my Chinese roots, even if it's like maybe not as connected as I want to be now. But
you realize that wasn't you, right?
Yeah.
You
yeah,
realize it was forces outside of yourself telling you not to.
Yeah.
Right?
But I just think the message behind Force of Fire is just like so important, especially for kids today. So I'm very, very happy that you wrote this book.
Thank you.
Yeah. Now I have a fun question for Claribel. Which coven do you think you'd be sorted into? I think we can all answer this question, actually.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, there are 5 covens in Witchlings. Well, there's a spare coven, so that's like where the leftover witches go. Then there's Goose House, which is like the chaotic party house, spontaneous witches. House of Stars, which are like the aesthetic obsessed, like I guess they'd be like beauty bloggers in today's world. There is House Hyacinth, which is like the overachievers, good at absolutely everything. Frog House, which is like the more academic focused, anxious house.
I hear some Frog House back there.
Frog House is very intense. Moth House, which is like the goths, I guess, over emotional goths. Did I get everybody? Yes.
I think so, yeah.
So I took the quiz. If you guys want to take the quiz, it's at witchlingsquiz.com. And I got House of Stars, and I agree with it because I like love makeup and anything to do with like fashion and hair. So that matches for me. Where do you guys think you would be?
It's between Frog House and a spare. The spare is because like when I was younger, I just remember like feeling so out of place. So that's the part of me that's like, and also 7's a spare. So I'm like, I want to be like 7. But I was also like really academically like driven when I was younger. So it would be one or the other. I don't know which one.
Yeah, what's the academic anxious one?
Frog House.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that one.
All right. Well, since you both like wrote like Magic Academy books, like how do you think you would do at your like academy, I guess?
I mean, I push myself in anything that I do, so I think I would do well. Yeah, I think I'd do well, unless I got like killed by a monster.
Oh.
Um, this Cut with Gutch Academy is pretty chaotic, and so I think I would be a little overwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
But that said, I think I'd have to just tap into my fire part and go for it.
I think you'd do well. Yeah, you have a great personality. I'm sure you would do great there. So now we're just gonna move on to some general questions, which I guess I can answer too, because why not? What is your favorite and least favorite part of the writing process?
You go.
Okay. Oh, dang. I'm on the spot now for my own question.
You came up with a question. You get to answer it.
I actually didn't even think about my own answers, so this is awkward. All right. Honestly, I think the favorite part is like when I'm maybe like past pages. For those who don't know, that's like the part of the process where like you're pretty much done, but like you're just like catching like little errors, like little grammatical errors sometimes. Usually more like formatting issues in the manuscript. Like at that point, I feel like I've like revised everything pretty much, and I'm like a total grammar geek, so I like catching grammar errors. That's something I do.
Yeah, you're in Frog House. I'm sorry.
Yes, that's my specialty. And least favorite part is starting, which I think a lot of like writers can agree with. Like the blank page is so intimidating, and like my first drafts are always terrible. Like I don't understand how some people can like outline and just like have a perfect first draft come out. Like I outline and my first drafts are still trash, and I like really have to discover the book and like make it decent through revisions. Yeah.
So I think my stories are all really character driven. So I love developing my characters. I also come from a journalism background. So like one of the things they teach you in journalism school is the more research you do, the more information you have, the easier it is for you to write your article, right? Which makes sense. So when I write my books, it's the same thing. I always have like a lot of world building, research, character development. So like I guess the preparation to begin writing is like my favorite part. My least favorite part is just deadlines. I hate them.
You know, I too am very character driven, but very voice driven. So for me, the favorite part is actually starting because it's when I've captured the voice and I'm like, yes, oh, I love this character. They're so snarky. They're so funny. And then I actually have to have them make sense, you know, have the plot make sense. And then I'm like, oh, okay. Now comes the hard work. Now comes like putting things together that makes sense. But that initial rush of hearing your funny character, I'm saying funny because I also enjoy writing humor. Hearing like your funny, snarky character pop to life in your head and then like see scenes in your head like a movie. I was just talking to somebody online about this, that if I can't see it in my head, I can't write it. So it's very difficult for me to outline something without first just like dreaming it up. So that part I love. And then I'm like, oh, I actually my plot actually has to make sense. And that then comes the hard work.
Yeah. But all of it's hard. That was a trick question. All of it is our least favorite part.
That's true.
All right, my next question is, who is your favorite character in your book and why? And yes, you have to pick a favorite.
That's evil. Okay, so there's this like civil servant gay ghost in my book named Alaric, and he's like kind of like bumbling. Like the witchlings try to trick him, and he's like so sweet that he helps them, but he's like so nervous like the whole time, and I adore him, and I just think he's so great. I can't pick between the witchlings. I won't do it, so I'll pick Alaric.
I mean, I love Pinky. She's like so fabulous and so terrible. But she also has these 3 bumbling baby cousins who are kind of like her Achilles heel. Like she could be far eviler if not for her love for these little bumbling cousins, Kachkala, Kanmola, and Dimbo. And their names are from this very silly Bengali song that you know, I used to hear as a child. My dad used to sing it to me. And Dimbo's name literally means eggy, one who likes eggs. And so I just have Dimbo. Dimbo's, you know, nonverbal, but super communicative in other ways. For instance, Dimbo likes to eat a lot of eggs and share eggs with people that she loves and meets. And so when Dimbo gets in trouble, when Dimbo gets captured by the snakes, my heart breaks every time, even though like I know she's gonna be, well, I hope she's gonna be okay. Because she's just such a darling dear, and also I love when a seemingly hard character actually has a really soft heart, and Dimbo is the manifestation of Pinky's heart.
Oh, I think it's so interesting that we didn't pick, or you guys didn't pick like your main characters as your favorite characters. I also am not gonna pick my main character. Sorry, Winnie. I had to go with David, who is like kind of like Winnie's, I guess, like arch nemesis in the book in the beginning. He originally wasn't even supposed to be like kind of a big side character. He was just gonna be the kid at her school who's like constantly one-upping her, just like there for comedy, comic relief, basically. But as I like kept drafting, he was one of those characters who sort of like demanded to be written and like demanded to take up more of the spotlight. And I think like he takes on a pretty big role in the story in playing off of Winnie, and their interactions force Winnie to grow. And by the end, they sort of have kind of a reluctant friendship, which was like my favorite thing to write. So I'm gonna go with David. My next question is, what draws you to write for middle grade readers?
I think when you're in middle grade, like there's still hope that like you can do something to change the world, and like there's this helplessness of like I'm just a kid, but I'm gonna try anyway. And I love that hope, like that earnestness. So I love writing stories about kids who still feel like anything is possible. I try not to lose that as an adult, but I feel like as we get older, naturally, like life beats it out of us. But in middle grade, there's still sort of like that idea that like all it takes is like one voice, one person to make a difference, and I love that. So I think those kinds of stories are the stories that I grew up with, grew up loving, and that really shaped me as a storyteller.
All the stuff Claribel said.
Yeah.
To be honest, you want to find people who have a really strong sense of justice? Your 8 to 12-year-old crowd
Yeah.
is where it's at. You
Yeah.
know, they know what's right and wrong in the world. They're like, well, that's not fair. Why'd you do that, Mom? You know, or whatever. That's not right. They get it. They get it. So absolutely, all the stuff Claribel said.
Yes, all the stuff that Sayantani and Claribel said. I'm also going to add, though, that, like, for me, one of the things that really draws me to middle grade is, like, the humor of it. I just, like not taking myself seriously. And, like, I also really love writing, like, young adult, and I've also, like, tried my hand at writing some adult. But I think middle grade, like, really lets you, like, just, like, go and like be as funny as you want to be. You can write things that wouldn't really make sense, and in YA they might like make you cut it out.
Yeah.
But in middle grade you can sort of like get away with anything. Like kids just want to like have fun when they're reading, and that like spirit of just like having fun when you're reading. I feel like I haven't felt that as much with like books for older readers. So I don't know. I guess because like I never fully grew up, or like I still have an inner kid in me. I just like really love writing middle grade.
Right? Joy is revolutionary.
Yes,
right?
absolutely, yeah. What advice do you have for some young readers? I don't really see that many in the audience, but yeah, just like any writing advice, or for aspiring like middle grade authors.
Read a lot of books, and don't be afraid to like write terrible things. Like you can write in your notebook, nobody has to see it. You can sort of write things in private until you feel comfortable sharing them with people. There's no pressure. I feel like young people put so much pressure on themselves, like, I have to be published by the time I'm 18 or my life is over. Don't think that. Think about it in terms of your craft. When is your craft ready? When do you feel comfortable? And just go from there and have fun and write things that make your heart feel like they're on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like everybody has their own story to tell, and even if the three of us were to get an assignment, write the same thing, we wouldn't, because it would be our version of that. It's like, so write the story only you can tell, right? And I think that's a version of like, write the thing that sets your heart on fire.
Yeah.
Right? Be the beacon, be the spark. Like, do the thing, not for what you think the market is, or what your best friend wants, or what the other, do the thing that's as esoterically, brilliantly you as you can, right?
Yes, I really wish I'd had that advice when I was a young writer, because I remember like I was writing whatever I thought was like popular or would be trendy, and I also never wrote like Chinese or Asian characters because I just thought like it wasn't a thing. Like I was only writing like white protagonists because I was like, well, only white people can have their stories written in books, right? Like that's all I see. So yeah, definitely like stay true to like what you want to write, and I would also say read as like widely as you can. Like try not to just stick within one genre. Like obviously if you have a favorite genre, then you can like read as much of it as you want, but I advise like looking outside of genres, because for me, like I've noticed that my writing has improved, like even just like within like the fantasy genre, if I like read like a lot of thrillers or like read some romance, because every genre has like its different like qualities or quirks. Every like writer is just like different, and once you read more like different voices from different people of different backgrounds, I feel like as a writer you have a better grasp of like what you really like in stories, and you can sort of like make a unique blend of all of like your favorite aspects of different genres and writers, and just like tell your own story from that.
Agreed.
I think we're pretty close to the end, so we have like 7 minutes. So does anyone have audience questions?
I think there's a mic in the middle if you want.
Oh yeah, you can go ahead. great question.
So there's a second Witchlings book, so I'm working on that.
When does it come out?
Next year, maybe April or May. I'm not sure the exact date, but I'm very excited about it. There are raccoons in this one, so.
Oh, I can't wait.
Are the raccoons doing things?
Oh yeah.
Alrighty then. We will just have to wait and see. So there's actually, well, there's one book. Okay, there's many things happening. There's a lot of wheels turning. So Crown of Flames, which is the next book to Force of Fire, comes out this fall, and it is Pinky's continued adventure. Then I have my next YA coming out next spring, and it's called Rosewood, a midsummer meet cute, and it's Shakespeare meets Sense and Sensibility meets High School Musical, if that makes sense. It's like
Wow, I'm sold.
Yeah.
It's set in a Regency camp, which is like a real life casting for a Bridgerton-like show.
Oh, stop.
So yes, I am so excited about that one. I'm doing past pages right now. And then I am working on a new, slightly younger middle grade series called Secrets of the Sky. And it's kind of environmentally themed adventures with flying horses because, you know, why not? So there you go. Yeah.
Oh. Is that one like already sold, or are you just like working on it?
No. So it's coming out from Scholastic. It's a trilogy
when?
coming out from Scholastic also next year.
Next year.
The first one.
So
you're
busy.
busy. Yeah.
So like different things, it's like you know, it's like different
Yeah,
plates
yeah.
at different levels. But it's exciting. So maybe
Yeah.
I am a little bit more chaotic than I thought.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I kind of like that. I like working at like multiple things in multiple places at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I understand because, like, for me, when I write, like, a lot of middle grade, then I'm like, I'm a little bit tired of this now. I want to write something, like, maybe, like, for an older audience, then, like, I'll write, like, YA. So speaking of that, I do have a YA coming out in August. It's called The Lies We Tell, and it's a thriller with, like, dark academia vibes. It's set at this fictional university called Brooklyn's, and it follows the story of a freshman girl named Anna, who's just starting her freshman year, and one of the reasons why she chose this school is because of an unsolved, like, cold murder case from 7 years ago. So this book is kind of in the veins of, like, Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, if anyone has read that. So Anna, while juggling her coursework, is also trying to, like, investigate this murder. And as she gets, like, closer to uncovering the truth, she realizes that there's somebody stalking her and that she might be the next one in danger. So that's out in August. Very different from my middle grade. But the sequel to Winnie Zhang comes out next April. We do have a title, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say it yet.
Say it. Say it.
All right, you guys got to keep it here, okay? It's Winnie Zhang Vanquishes a King. So that comes out next April.
That sounds cool. Oh, I also have a graphic novel coming out in October called Frizzy about a Dominican American girl who wants to wear her hair naturally curly, and her family's like, no, you have to straighten it every weekend. And she sort of rebels against that, and it's her journey to, like, embracing her natural hair. So.
Oh, I love that. Yay. Any more questions? I think we still have like 3 minutes. Yeah, go ahead.
Do you mind just going to the microphone?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of noise behind us. It's not you.
If you had a choice to become one of your characters in your books, what would it be? What would it be at least?
Oh, nice question.
So Seven's little brother, his name is Beefy, and he is like a fat baby who's like really strong. And I would love to be Beefy.
Yeah.
If it wasn't Pinky, Pinky has a friend named Akash who is an air rakush, and I kind of love him because he's like very self-centered but also very full of heart. So he's like really worried about his like hair products, but he's actually like kind of a gush. And so I have kind of soft spots for a lot of different characters. And if not, I think I'd go back to egg-eating Dimbo. I kind of love egg-eating Dimbo.
I love that she's eating eggs.
Eggs like on the... if you can't see it, she's eating eggs like next to the barcode as her siblings are like sticking their fingers in each other's noses.
Incredible.
So I'm kind of between two characters. So One would be David, just because like his whole role in the story is to just be annoying to Winnie and like be better than her at everything. So that seems like it'd be fun. If I couldn't be David, I would want to be the pet rabbit named Jade, because like I would love to do nothing but sit around and eat carrots all day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds great.
Great question,
It's a life. Any more questions? No? I think we're like pretty close to. We have like a
Yeah.
minute.
That's cool. Thank you for all your questions, Katie. That was really
Yeah,
fun.
of course.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. That was the best.
That was really fun.
Great moderator.
Thank you so much. That was so fun. I can't wait to take the quiz to see which coven that I am in. But all of the books are available in the back at the book tent, and the authors will be back there signing. Go say hi, go buy the book, support, and thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.